Story 1. The Woman in the Hallway. It was the early hours of New Year's Day, the kind of icy night that clung to your bones. My husband, Daniel, and I had just returned to our apartment complex after celebrating with friends. The building was eerily quiet, with the faint flicker of one malfunctioning light in the foyer. We lived on the top floor, in the corner penthouse of a luxury complex. Normally, there was a doorman and the hum of distant chatter, but tonight, the building felt abandoned. As the elevator smoothly ascended, I leaned against the mirrored walls, heels dangling from one hand. The elevator doors opened to our hallway, but before we could step out, we froze. At the far end, a shadow moved. A woman, if she could be called that, was slinking along the wall. Her hair was dark, wild, and matted, obscuring her face. She wore a tattered black dress, its lace clinging to her like cobwebs. Her bare feet padded soundlessly on the carpet. "Do you recognize her?" I whispered. Daniel shook his head, his lips pressed into a tight line. We stayed still, watching as she stopped at each door, peering through the peepholes. There was something unnerving about the way she moved. Her steps were uneven, almost jerky, like a marionette controlled by unseen strings. "She's probably drunk," Daniel whispered, though his voice lacked conviction. The woman let out a low hum, guttural and broken, like the sound of a dying animal. My breath hitched. The hum grew louder, transforming into a disjointed melody, as she leaned against the door of our elderly neighbor, Tilly. I couldn't take it anymore. "Excuse me," I called, my voice trembling. "Are you all right?" The woman snapped upright, her head cocking unnaturally to one side. She didn't turn toward us, but let out a soft, rasping laugh. "Miss, do you need help?" Daniel asked, stepping forward cautiously. The laugh grew louder, spiraling into a maniacal cackle. Then abruptly, she stopped. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, she threw herself at our door, pounding and screaming with inhuman ferocity. "Let me in," she shrieked, her voice raw and animalistic. I fumbled with my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed 911. "She's gonna break the door down." Daniel shouted, "Hey, stop that." The pounding ceased. Slowly, the woman turned toward us. Her face was still obscured by her hair, but her eyes, black and empty, seemed to pierce through me. She dropped to the floor, crawling toward us with unnatural speed, her movements more spider-like than human. She hissed, her mouth opening impossibly wide, revealing teeth blackened as though rotting from the inside. "Run!" Daniel grabbed my hand, and we bolted for the stairwell. We descended 2 flights before stopping to catch our breath, the sound of her growling echoing in my ears. When we cautiously returned to our floor, she was gone. The landlord claimed the security cameras had malfunctioned due to the freezing weather. But every New Year's Eve since, I still hear that cackling laugh in my neighbors. Before we dive into these bone-chilling tales, here's a warning. Not everything haunting this channel stays in the stories. Some of it might follow you. So, if you're brave enough, hit that subscribe button, like and share, because the scariest thing of all? Watching this video to the end without being part of the community. And trust me, you don't want to watch alone. Story 2. The Stranger in Alex's Home. It was New Year's Eve, and I had agreed to dog sit for my friend Alex while he partied in the city. His husky mix, Bailey, and I were settling in for a quiet night when the doorbell rang. At the door was a woman, her hood pulled low, casting shadows over her face. "Hi," she said, her voice soft but tinged with urgency. "I'm Alex's girlfriend. I left something here earlier." "Girlfriend?" Alex had never mentioned one. Still, I let her in. She went upstairs to his room, closing the door almost all the way behind her. I texted Alex, "I didn't know you had a girlfriend." No response. When the woman finally came back downstairs, she avoided eye contact. I tried making small talk. "How long have you two been together?" "Too long," she said with a hollow laugh and walked out. When Alex finally answered my call, his reaction sent chills down my spine. "I don't have a girlfriend. Who the hell did you let into my house?" My heart sank. I described the woman, and Alex went quiet before muttering, "Lock the doors." That night, Bailey started growling at the front door, her ears pinned back. Trisha, my girlfriend, had arrived by then. We sat in tense silence as faint knocks sounded at the door. Then came the footsteps, soft at first, then heavier, creeping toward the spare bedroom where we were hiding. The doorknob twisted violently, followed by a woman's voice. Alex? Trisha called 911 while I shouted through the door, bluffing about the cops already being on their way. The intruders fled, their footsteps retreating down the hall. When the police arrived, the house was empty, but Alex's keys were missing. The realization struck me hard. The woman hadn't been there to steal anything. Whatever her intentions were, they were far darker. Story 3. The Rocking Chair. It was New Year's Eve 2020, and my friend Logan's house party was winding down. By 3 a.m., only Logan, Cody, and I were left. The house was eerily quiet, except for a faint creaking sound. We dismissed it as a fridge or settling wood, but the noise persisted, grating on our nerves. It's coming from the basement, Logan finally said, his face pale. Armed with kitchen knives, we descended the creaky stairs. The basement was cluttered, dimly lit, and utterly silent until we noticed the rocking chair. It swayed gently, the creaking sound unmistakable. Did someone? Logan whispered, his voice trailing off. The chair abruptly stopped. We bolted up the stairs, slamming the door behind us. Later, Logan admitted the chair had belonged to his late grandmother. That night, I didn't sleep. Even now, I wonder what, if anything, sat in that chair before we arrived.